everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Elisa Smith, and I lead corporate innovation services for Centrifuge. In addition to being a chemical engineer and R&D at major enterprises such as Cal and P&G, I have also been a longtime champion of female entrepreneurship. Before joining Centrifuge, I launched one of the first national podcasts on female entrepreneurship entitled The Beehive. This is my passion. Our mission at Centrifuge is to build the #1 startup hub in the Midwest and a top innovation center in the country. We cannot achieve that goal without a meaningful concentration of well-funded and successful and thriving female startups. According to PitchBook, less than 3% of all venture capital is invested in all female-founded businesses. Our goal today is to start a real, even difficult conversation about how we change that reality. Here's the good news. In recent months, there has been heightened awareness that female founders can have an outsized impact on the many challenges and business opportunities we face today and in the future. And big companies are leaning in, especially in our backyard. Kroger announced that they've invested nearly $3.5 billion in women and minority-owned businesses, a 30% increase over 2 years ago and a 12% increase since last year. P&G, the world's biggest advertiser, is rethinking their entire supplier diversity approach, and we've been working closely with them on this. Even at Centrifuge, we are taking a hard look at how our next fund can drive even greater impact around diverse founders. And so we bring together a stellar and diverse group of female leaders to advance this critical conversation. Our hope is to parlay today's event into a major conference in Q3, perhaps the female founders equivalent of South by Southwest here in Cincinnati. Lastly, a word about you. Over 50% of our attendees are entrepreneurs. We are here to support you. At Centrifuge, we can route you to hundreds of resources in our community. For $150 a year, a Centrifuge membership will give you up to $20,000 worth of services, vendor discounts, and more. In addition, our home at Union Hall is open and welcome to you, and we have radically subsidized the cost of co-working. The point being, we will do everything we can to empower you to pursue your big idea, and the community really needs you. But with that, I will hand this off to our esteemed moderator, Betsy Bluestone of P&G Ventures, a longtime champion of female entrepreneurship and startup connections. Betsy, take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and happy Women's History Month. We've gone from International Women's Day to a whole month of celebrating women. Thank you all for joining the conversation we're calling Empowering Female Founders, Resilience and Recovery. My name, as was mentioned, is Betsy Bluestone. I'm the Senior Director of Global Scouting and Partnerships for P&G Ventures. P&G Ventures is a studio within Procter & Gamble where we partner with startups, entrepreneurs and inventors and a couple of people hanging out in a garage, anyone to build new brands and businesses in the consumer packaged goods space. At P&G Ventures and more broadly within P&G, we are extremely supportive of female founders and female-led businesses. We have used our platforms to call attention to the need for all entrepreneurs to have more access to venture capital and other resources. We believe in the power of women, and we see a world where women have equal access to venture building resources as critically important and incredibly exciting. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to have this conversation with you today. We have a group of incredible Cincinnati-based entrepreneurs to join us for this conversation. We're going to talk about challenges facing female founders, about the pivots that have happened during COVID, about the Cincinnati startup ecosystem, and what a post-pandemic future might look like for women-led startups. So thank you again for joining us all today. I'm gonna in terms of introductions, I'm going to just give a little bit of more context about what the environment is for female founders today. And this is not to be a sour grapes, but to understand kind of what is the state of the union. And so I think it is fair to say that there has never been a more challenging time to be a female entrepreneur. And I was saying to this group earlier, perhaps there's never been a more challenging time to be a human being. And so the funding of startups is something that we have spent a lot of time thinking about and paying attention to over this last year. And contrary to what most people expected was going to happen, which was that there would be this massive drop in funding or venture capital that would go out to fund startups, funding in 2020 actually increased 13%. So it was a pretty good year for entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, that funding was not distributed evenly. And in fact, female founders' share of the pie and total dollars declined in 2020 down to just 2.2% of all venture capital funding. So this is not a small problem. And if you are a founder of color, it is even less than that. So this backdrop is important to have in context sort of in general. And then also as you think about the added jobs that many female entrepreneurs had during COVID and how the load sort of disproportionately fell on females' shoulders, which might then have impacted the time that they could spend on their businesses. So I'm gonna kick us off with our founders, and I'm gonna ask each one of them, I'm gonna give them the question, and as you get your first question, if you would also, ladies, just give us a little bit about you and about the business that you are running. So Tia, we're gonna start with you. The first question is for you in terms of your experience. What are some of the biggest hurdles women face when starting a new business?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Betsy. And it's so wonderful to be here with everyone today. I want to first say hello to the audience and to all my fellow amazing panelists here. Happy International Women's Day. I am Tia Rochelle, founder and CEO of Johnny Spot Concierge. And we are a concierge firm. We support individuals and businesses, all stages of business. So startups, small, medium-sized, and large-sized companies with administrative services, administrative and project services. And we are your extra set of hands. We provide a specific expertise to you all with that administrative assistance that you all may need. And so, for us, launching 2 months right before the real meat of the pandemic hit, I would say some of the biggest hurdles that I've personally experienced and I've witnessed that women have faced when starting a business, I would say 3 things. Access to capital. Access to capital is one. Personally, in my journey, it has been challenging to find and access capital. I have a great village around us. Centrifuge has been amazing. They've been with us since the beginning, and they have always, Centrifuge and the Women's Business Center, they have walked with us on this journey. And they have been so integral in helping us to find capital and resources, but it is still a journey to get there. I would say also resource management, finding resources. And then I would honestly say the number one for me, and I don't know if anyone else on this panel would feel this way, but I'm a mommy of 4. And so, work-life balance. I know work-life balance is a term that we all use. I'm a former P&Ger and a former GEer. And the term work-life balance has been thrown out a lot, but I don't like that term. I actually like the term work-life harmony because nothing in my life is ever really balanced. I like to say work-life harmony. And I would say for me, that is probably one of the biggest hurdles that I have found when starting my business, is really having that harmony and really finding that flow in my life. And now, starting the company, we actually formed it in 2019, launched it January 4th, 2020. So we had kind of our 1-year anniversary this January the 4th. I'm still kind of riding this wave and trying to find that harmony. So access to capital, resource management, and work-life balance, but I like to say harmony.
I hear you. All right, very good. Rachel, can you please tell us a little bit about your business and just what are some of the hurdles and barriers that you faced when starting your business?
Sure, Betsy, thank you. And thank you for having this platform and allowing us to speak. My name is Rachel Angel, and I'm the founder of a platform called Piro. Piro was created to create a career pathway management system that allowed you to provide training, recruitment, and individuals to leverage that platform to also have employment, and then eventually take all of those things and provide workforce data in real time in a way that we haven't been able to do today. So that is what Piro is all about. And I'm sorry, Betsy, what was your first question that you had asked?
About your barriers. What are the hurdles and barriers? What made it hard to get started?
Yeah, sure. I would think there's kind of two things. I think that coming and growing up in an environment where you're not necessarily exposed to a lot of entrepreneurs or individuals that have been in the startup space, it can be a foreign space for you when you try to go into it. And so you're constantly learning and you're trying to learn these things quickly. I would say also that, of course, access to capital has definitely been challenging, but I think furthermore, really access to customers. I think that one of the biggest challenges with engaging with customers or engaging with larger organizations like a Kroger or a P&G, depending on what department you're working with, they're not always so empowered to work with the startup. Sometimes even if there's benefit, the challenges to actually bring a startup in, run a pilot, they're not always empowered. There's certain sectors of the organization that are, but that's not always the case with kind of these larger companies and organizations. And so I would say that been the biggest challenge, especially at this point in time, where we spent all this time pushing to try to get funding, and then you kind of deal with those same challenges and biases as you start to try to acquire customers. So it's like you almost get through one impossible hurdle to be faced with another impossible hurdle. So, and I think that, from a standpoint of Cincinnati and this platform and trying to figure out how to utilize this to make improvements with our ecosystem, I think as Centrifuge is connected to the funding resources, I think that kind of this idea of P&G Ventures being a part of Centrifuge or having partnerships or Kroger being a part, that could be a little bit more intentional, where it could be coupled with the funding so that you don't spend 1 year trying to get the funding and then an additional 1 year trying to acquire the customer. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's a universal truth in big companies, that it is really hard to partner with startups just because our processes are built to reduce risk, right? And so I know at P&G, we have spent a ton of time and effort in trying to, we were actually talking this just before this call, to reduce the barriers to getting to a pilot with P&G. We've been incredibly focused and intentional about that because we know how important it is that we get that fresh blood into the ecosystem, right? Fresh thinking and new technology and all of that. So I know those barriers are coming down at P&G, and I think that they will other places as well. I think it's you got to do it to survive, right? So
that's awesome. Yeah, we're having a conversation, and I think we will become more intentional as we move forward and navigate those challenges.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, Kirsten, with these challenges in mind, are there resources or support systems that you can share that you have found helpful in getting your business started? Like, what advice would you give those that are in the audience that maybe are just getting their, dipping their toe in the water?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Kirsten Moorfield. I'm a co-founder of a company called Cloverleaf. In a quick nutshell, we do automated coaching in the flow of work. So you could be walking into a meeting with Betsy and we could send you a quick little note that says, hey, try to persuade Betsy like this, not like that. That's a quick nutshell of what we do. We started in 2017 is really when my co-founder and I came full time. We had done some MVP and testing before that. And we had a really hard time getting started when we came full time. Like everything that Tia and Rachel are saying, I totally 100% relate to. One of the wonderful things about Cincinnati is that we do have P&G and Kroger and some other really great big companies here, but we also have a lot of SMBs. And so we've always known our platform is best in a large global enterprise, but most of who we sold to in the early days was people who didn't have procurement. And so I think that is a hack that we did. It's harder. It's a lot more, you have to sell a lot more small contracts, but it allowed us to get some revenue to show to investors that there's market traction, which then allowed us to, after a couple of years, really grow larger inside of Procter & Gamble and other companies like that. Also, Cincinnati has so many resources. So Centrifuge was really helpful to us. They actually connected us first to our champion, the person who ended up becoming our champion inside of Procter & Gamble, and then to the person in Switzerland who ended up helping us get us around procurement at Procter & Gamble. So Centrifuge is super helpful. They also actually, a friend of mine, Christy Brown, who's also a female founder, she had sent Centrifuge an email saying, are there other women doing this? And they sent her a list and we started a group. So really, I think the lesson there is Centrifuge and all these other great organizations, they really want to help. It's on the female founder or the founder to ask very specifically for what we need help with, because only we know our real problems and goals. We also went through Ocean Accelerator. There's over a dozen accelerators in Cincinnati area. There's so many great accelerators. There's even one specifically for the Air Force outside of Dayton. So there's just a wealth of resources like that around here. Main Street Ventures, they give small loans, grants. They give grants out. Oh my gosh, we also are technically located in Kentucky. So we went through the Awesome Inc. Accelerator or fellowship program. They were so awesome. I love Awesome. Awesome Inc. is awesome. And they connected us to some people who ended up being game changing for us, either just in terms of like consultations or in terms of investment. And I think that's another big part of a resource is networking. And today it is just phenomenal that we have LinkedIn. I have gotten connected to incredible people on LinkedIn by just sending them a cold message. Like, hi, I see that you lead product at this really impressive big company. Can I talk to you? And like 90% don't respond, but some do. And it's incredible what you can learn. And then that expands your network in huge ways. Another great resource is podcasts. How I Built This, the Startup Podcast. Those things are just therapeutic because you start to realize like everything that Tia and Rachel said is just normal. And you're not crazy and you're not failing. Like everyone who started a business, no matter the color of their skin or their gender or their country they were raised in, like everyone has trouble. Some of us have more disadvantages, but like everyone has trouble and it's very therapeutic. And so I would also say founders, just being connected to other founders, talking to other founders is incredible. I mentioned I was part of a female founders group. It is just so essential, because like your uncle at your holiday party is going to have no clue what you mean when you say you're looking for a lead investor. Like nobody else can relate to this like founders can, because you're going to get rejected. You're going to get rejected. Well, you're going to get rejected at least once. And if you can get over that hurdle and keep on going, you're going to get rejected 5 more times. And it's going to be so confusing because you're going to get rejected for 5 different reasons. But if you can keep going and you get rejected 20 or 30 times, like then you're really picking up steam, because you've learned how to get rejected. And you've learned that out of those like 30 people who said no, 20 of them said no for the same reason. So now you know what to focus on. So if you don't have like a really good network around you, that can become defeating. So yes, there's a lot of great resources.
I love that. And I have to tell you that, you know, we've created within Ventures this culture that is, when we meet with founders, every single conversation starts with, how can I help? And I think that sometimes we don't like to ask for help. We've got it. We're smart, we're connected, we're whatever it is. And I encourage people all the time, just ask. Most people are more than happy to help if you just say what you need. And so I love that. And the connection with other founders that are in the same boat is hugely helpful. Not only because it makes all those other connections, but as you said, it does help you feel like you're not quite so crazy. All right, Anne, tell us about your business, and then I'd love you to kind of add on to this conversation about what are the resources that you have found that have helped in general and also specifically in Cincinnati.
Sure. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me. It's really nice to be with everybody on this panel. My company is called 17 Ways, and what we do is make it easy for purpose-driven companies to find each other, well, actually buyers and sellers to find each other and do business together. And anyone here, anyone watching us with us today is welcome to join us at 17ways.com. We organize our companies around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So there are 17, and that's how we think about our North Star. So in terms of resources, man, Kirsten, you really hit so many of them. It's hard to even add on to that. But you did say something that really struck a chord with me, and that was figuring out how to solve a problem, which, human nature, we're faced with a problem. The first thing we want to do is, what are we going to do? How am I going to solve it? And it feels like such a weight that this is we always, every day we're facing big problems. But one of the practices that I'm really working on, and it's not easy, is this idea of asking the question who, not how, right? So who is out there? Somebody's already solved this problem. Who is that person, and how am I going to get that person to help me solve the problem? And it takes the weight of how, which how is just a barrier so often. But that speaks to networking, which you mentioned also. And without networking, I think we can't run any of our businesses. LinkedIn is amazing for connecting. And now there's so many other resources too. Like I was on Clubhouse the other day and a great conversation with other female founders. Just the incredible tips. Like one woman was saying how she takes charge of her conversations with VCs or any other funders by saying, okay, here's our 3-step process. Is first meeting is 3 minutes only, just to say, are we interested or not? Second meeting, 60 minutes to dig in deep. And the third meeting is decision, go, no go. So it's really interesting to sort of shift it and take control of the process going forward, because as founders, we always feel like we're at the mercy of anybody who's going to help us and fund us. In terms of resources around Cincinnati, one resource that I think is really important. Well, of course, everybody should join Centrifuge because it's amazing in terms of connecting. The Ohio River Valley Women's Business Enterprise Council is one of the best in the country, and they're deeply connected to P&G, Fifth Third, Macy's, so they've been a fantastic resource for us as well. And just in terms of starting in Cincinnati, all the things that everyone has already said, Rachel, Tia, and Kirsten, just with P&G, with Kroger, all the support we get from them. It's a good time to start a business in Cincinnati.
It is indeed. All right, I'd like to talk a little bit about this last year. And we know what the numbers look like. And so I'm really interested to know from each of you about, how did the events of the last year impact your business plan? Was it good? Was it bad? How did you adapt? And Rachel, I'm going to start with you. I'd love for you to give us a little bit of background on how your year went.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting, like everyone else's. And one of the things that, I kind of thought about when COVID first hit, we actually had closed a funding round in March. And immediately after we had closed, maybe like a week later, everything had shut down. And in our industry, we work with youth, we work with a number of organizations that are in employment and placement. And so at that point, we had Columbus, we were managing their youth employment over the summer. And that got kind of cut completely out as a result of COVID. And so what we had to do was reimagine the problem again, because the problem wasn't the same as it was just 2 weeks ago. And so when we sat back and we tried to reimagine the problem, we looked at what could we do as an organization to assist in some of these solutions. And what we built into our system was the training portion of it. And so our organizations, the Franklin County was able to provide training, workforce training on our platform, in addition to connecting that to opportunities, which furthered our mission. So we've done really well as a result of making that pivot. But I think it's all about identifying an issue. These challenges always come out of nowhere. Having the ability to control your emotions. I always say you got to take control of your emotions as a founder, because it is a roller coaster. It's ups, it's downs, and it can't cause you not to stay steady the course. So for that reason, we were able to kind of pivot, and it really helped us continue to be successful and work with some larger companies and organizations as a result of it.
Smart. Kirsten, how about for you?
Yeah, so we experienced the good and the bad of it. Of course, some of our contracts got delayed because people weren't sure about if they had budget anymore when the world shut down in March last year. We had only one contract actually just cancel, which was unfortunate, but thankfully only one. We also had, on the inverse side, we've always targeted remote working. And so, but it's always been like, 1% of the world that works remote. And all of a sudden it became 100%. So that sped up a lot of things for us, which was, it didn't happen immediately. It actually happened more like in April, May, June, later as people started to adjust. And then we also have coaches and consultants, business consultants that use our platform. And they told us in April that they would have gone under in March because they depended on face-to-face conversations. And suddenly everything had to be digital, and it already was if they were using Cloverleaf, which gave them the upper hand over their competitors. And so our leads picked up there, that was really great. And they're also our resellers. So there's a tail effect of that in enterprise sales for us, which is all really great for us. But the point of it is the economy has just shifted. Like, the money is not gone. There is so much money out there. Like, if you look at what's happening with SPACs in San Francisco, it's like, how are there hundreds of millions of dollars just available right now? And how do I get some? But it's just shifted. And so like, we just had to change our plans from, okay, well, it's not going to be, you know, in this type, but it is going to be over there. And so how do we adjust to that? And I think that there's a really good lesson in that when, who is it? Is it Warren Buffett who says like, when the economy goes down, that's when you invest, or something like that? But it's basically like, recognize that like, there are actually new opportunities created through this. It's hard, you have to shift, but startups can, we're agile.
Yeah, I love that. Tia, how about for you?
Yeah, you know, so we launched right before COVID, like I said, and we launched with this amazing idea to provide lifestyle management services to provide work-life harmony for the everyday busy person. And it was this grand idea, and we had it all figured out, right? And all of a sudden COVID hit, and we couldn't go in anyone's homes, and we could not go near anyone. And it just completely like flatlined everything. And we could not put our customer in harm's way. We could not put our staff in harm's way.
Yeah.
And so it really was devastating for us, because we could not operate business in the way that we intended to operate. I would say 85% of our business. That was probably the largest part of our business, was the personal lifestyle management, and the business concierge service was about maybe 15 to 20% of our business at that time. What we did, in which we did not really look at it this way, we pivoted, and it took us a little while to really see this, but we had to really find the need. And I didn't foresee the need this way, but when we saw all of the companies that were laying people off, and, you know, we saw the economy go down, we did not foresee how much work still had to be done by the companies. And all of a sudden, you know, we were like, oh my gosh, you know, we just launched and we're already going to be out of business. Oh my goodness. But all of a sudden, our phones started ringing off the hook.
Love that.
And it was all of these companies saying, hey, Johnny Spot, we need your help. We need your support. And it was like a flip, right? So it was all of a sudden, lifestyle management services was there, and business concierge services were up. And that's how we completely flipped our services and our offering during the pandemic. And we simply had to pivot and find the need. And so during the pandemic, you know, we had to stay the course. We had to really just be flexible. We had to be open to all possibilities.
Yeah.
We did not really turn down any work. We were like, you know, Johnny on the spot. And we were like, okay, what do you need? Absolutely, we'll deliver flowers. Absolutely, we'll be there to do whatever you need. You need some filing done, we will do it.
Yeah.
So we really were just there to provide the need. And it turned out to be a major blessing. We secured big contracts with big companies. We secured small contracts with small boutique size firms. We secured contracts with startup companies. And when I tell you, I have a love, I mean, of course, I love the bigger companies, right? Because, you know, they have the longer term opportunities that will help sustain you for longer term. But I have a love for the startup companies and entrepreneurs that look like me and that are small, that have that heart like me, because I understand where they are. And I understand what it takes to have to make that payment, because I'm also there, right? And so to be able to serve a company that looks like me, that may only have 5 employees like me, and you know that started where I started, it's just something else, and that, may have had to pivot during the pandemic like I did. It touches my heart differently. So, I think that's how we really had to shift during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But one other thing that the pandemic really brought to us is just this ability to be flexible and nimble. Fear crept in. We did not have the time to allow it to settle in, though.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And
love that agility. And I
yeah.
think I have seen some fantastic pivots, but every single one of them is rooted in hunkering down and
Mhm.
understanding your consumer, your customer, your whatever, and figuring out how is their life changing, how is their business changing, and how can you be relevant. And I think, your example, Tia, is an incredible one of just, ear to the ground. What do people need, and how do I find that more of those customers that need what those people need? So I
Yeah.
think it's a great story.
Thank you.
Hey, Anne, how about for you? Tell me about sort of your journey over the last year, and what's happened in terms of any changes that you've had to make in your business.
Well, it's interesting to me. It's so great to hear all of this because it is all about what's relevant for your customers. And I love the way you talked about that. For us, it wasn't really COVID that caused us to shift or pivot. It was actually Black Lives Matter. And what happened for us was my co-founder, Chrisanne Orton, my co-founder and I really had to look at our company and say, what does this mean for our company? And what do we do in this crisis, in the face of this crisis? Which, you could say it's not about us. I mean, but it is, right? It's about all of us. And so what was happening for us was our clients were making public commitments to using more Black businesses, which was awesome. And we realized that we were in a really great position to help with that. So we created an initiative called Build It Black. And we worked with our companies, our clients, to help them just to make it easier for them to find the Black businesses in the various categories. So for us, it really, it reminded us, I think, of, a couple of important things. Everything that Tia just said, which is what's relevant for our customers, what do we need to do, and really be always listening, because we may have been offering that all along, but because we weren't focusing on it and calling it Build It Black, people weren't hearing us, right? They were hearing, we can touch all of these different social issues, but this was the only social issue that mattered at that moment with our clients. So by naming it and saying Build It Black, it really made a difference for us in terms of how it resonated. And the other sort of constant reminder of everything we went through last year in terms of job loss, poverty, hunger, all of the issues, which of course are all part of the UN SDGs, it really reaffirmed for us that solving societal problems is at the heart of most socially responsible businesses. So for other people out there who are thinking about what business can I start, where should I begin, I don't know where to look, really problem solving and doing it through a societal lens is a great place to start.
100%. Yeah, that's really great. So let's talk about, and you guys sort of threaded silver linings through a lot of your answers. I guess I'm going to ask this question both as a business person and as a woman, and in some cases as a mom. Like, what are the things that this year brought that give you hope, that that really turned out to be a not so bad thing? And I'll start, and is to say that I'm a person who has traveled, has been on the road for the better part of the last 20 years. My job always, took me someplace else because it was externally facing, or sometimes I don't move. And so my jobs required me to work in different cities than where my family was. Well, my children are college, just out of college age. And what happened for me in March, on March 12th, we're almost at the anniversary of, I couldn't travel anymore, which certainly caused me to have to think about different ways that I would get work done. But I also had both of my children come into my house, and I had dinner every single night with my family, and some really, really special things about that. And then as I sort of wove my way through the last 12 months, the epiphany that I had was the incredible access that all entrepreneurs, and especially female entrepreneurs, had in being able to pitch like this.
Right.
And being able to make connections like this, and not having to travel, and the efficiency that drives. And efficiency is important for everybody, but it's particularly important when you wear a lot of different hats. And so for me, as I think about the silver linings, one of the biggest ones is about access. Like if I think about, CES or EY's Strategic Growth Forum, and I could keep going on and on. They were open to everybody. Anybody could go. You could participate. You could see these amazing speakers. You could be part of that webinar. You could, you could listen to other founders pitch. You could practice pitching with other founders. All of these things, all from your bedroom or your basement or whatever. And I think that is just hugely enabling. So that's my story of silver linings, and I'd love to pick up with you, Anne, on other silver linings in your world.
Well, mine are similar to yours, Betsy, but one of the things I always have found difficult being in the Midwest is that a lot of the organizations that I belong to are on either coast. So New York or San Francisco generally. And I've never been able to really participate the way I wanted to. One in particular is called, it's a women's organization called C200. And they have meetings all over the place, but never in Cincinnati. And so I maybe would see them once a year if I went to the annual meeting. But this year, it's just been fantastic because we do cocktails and conversation, which of course don't involve any cocktails, but do have a lot of conversation. And you just get to know people, as you said, Betsy, one-on-one in a way that it never would have been possible before. So that's a big silver lining. And like you, Betsy, my daughter also moved in. She hadn't lived with us for probably 8 years. So we had that really great time with her for about 9 months till she took off again. But it's awesome. Similar to you. Yeah, I'm sure everybody has something else that's shiny and wonderful.
Rachel, tell us what shines for you.
Well, kind of the same sentiment that you shared, but I would take it from the lens of just efficiency. I mean, when I would have to go sit down with someone face to face in a meeting, I could get maybe 2-3 meetings in a day. But now everything kind of transferring to video calls, I mean, it just made it easier to fit more in a day. And I think that from a business culture, it has been such a significant shift that would have taken years to happen. I mean, if someone said, hey, I want to meet with you, and I sent them a video call 2 years ago, they would have looked at me as if I was being, and so now having that opportunity to do that. And I would say, I think I'm a bit unconventional in how I think that people work and function. I don't think that everyone has to be in the office every day. And so watching the individuals that I work with that have children, I don't have children myself, but them being able to spend more time with their children is actually very rewarding for me. I think they're happier employees. I think that they're more committed to our mission as we become more committed to their lives and the things that they want. And COVID has really just made it easier. And it also is a lot to say when you are in the middle of something very challenging and working together to figure out how to get out of that. There's a bond, there's a relationship that's built that you share that you may never share with another person. And I think that has made us stronger as a team and an organization.
Yep. Combat binds.
Yes.
Right? Kirsten, how about for you?
I love not commuting. That's great. I had a 1-year-old went right up as COVID hit. She turned 1, and I'm a crunchy mama. I was like, I want to make it to 2 years nursing. That's my golden standard. Like, don't judge me. And I hate pumping. So when COVID hit, I just got to like go and nurse her and put her down for a nap, and that was awesome. And I made it to 2 years. She's 2 now. We're done. But I was really proud of that. That was a good personal accomplishment. Also, like company wise, like we can hire people anywhere, and so salaries are higher because now San Francisco can hire anywhere, and so no matter where you hire, you're competing with higher salaries because everyone's remote. But we access to just incredible talent, and we've figured out how to do all of our design thinking processes and all of that stuff online. This was like a good time for the world to shut down because there's Miro, there's like all kinds of tech tools out there to support this. And I actually think the situation that COVID created, the world shutting down, has been an incredible time for a woman to start a business, because you can't go to birthday parties on the weekend or whatever. Like, you don't have those social events anymore. You do have Shopify, Squarespace, all of these tools that make it real cheap and real easy to put something up on the web. And you can meet with anybody anywhere, to your guys' points already that were made. And you can just for like $15 do a test of Facebook ads and see if you have a viable business idea. And so like, I just actually think that there's so many silver linings to this terrible situation, but you can find so many silver linings in it when it comes to women being able to take the leap and start a business. I'll also say, if this had happened, 50 years ago, we would not be, first of all, we wouldn't be on Zoom, but also like, it is really tragic that, I forget what the percentage was, but a bunch of women dropped out of the workforce at the beginning of the school year in August because schools were remote. In our family, it was my husband. He quit his job so that I could keep working. And I could cry, but I have cried a lot about it. Like, it just really touches me. And like, he could not have done that 50 years ago. Like, socially, it wouldn't have been accepted. And so like, I feel like it is just an incredible time for female founders, and you can find so many good new opportunities with this crisis.
Yeah, that's it. First off, you're incredibly lucky. I always, to every young woman that I ever meet with, I tell them, choose carefully. Sounds like you did.
Yeah. And I agree with that.
Right. It's really important. But I think the stat is that we have lost 30 years of progress in terms of female participation in the workforce. So it is staggering. And my hope is that all of this flexibility enables women to do things that they would have never considered or weren't options before because you couldn't do this. So yeah, I think there's huge potential. All right, Tia, give us your silver linings, and then I'm going to have you head us into the next question, which is really about networking. And I'd love to know if you can just kind of give us, the audience, one tip on what you have found has been the most effective way to network.
Yes. So I would say during COVID, for me, I came off of traveling. In my previous role, in my last corporate role, I was a global program and event manager. So I traveled around the world with my leaders internationally and planned these amazing events. And I was always in a different time zone and around the world, in the US, abroad. And I loved it. I love to travel. I love, being a mom, who does not want to have, right, like a reason to get away. However, you don't know, you just didn't know that you needed some downtime. And I will say that COVID forced me to pause. And it really forced me to pause and take inventory of my life. And that to me, I think was life-saving. And I think
Yeah.
every woman needs to do that. And at some point in your life, every woman needs to take inventory. And this is something that my mentor speaks to me about. This is something that, has been, something that I've had to just really, I don't think I would have done this at any other time because I'm always on the go. I do
Yeah.
so much. And you put it down, you put it to the side, you don't really focus on it. But COVID really forced me to pause and take inventory in every area of my life. It also really caused me and allowed me the time to focus on my children. And it really allowed me to spend time with them. I mean, they're growing up so much. And, I have my daughter will be going off to college soon. And I have, my son is in high school. My other son is in middle school. And my baby girl is, she's 9 going on 18. And I mean, it's just like,
A good time to be home.
Exactly. And, I just didn't know. I mean, just the other day, I was nursing them all, Kirsten, and I nursed all of them. And it just seemed like, where did the time go? And, you just never know how much time you miss and where their personalities are. And so for me, it was more of a personal investment that I think helped my professional investment. The personal really fed into my professional world. And I don't know how, but it was, being able to be more intentional in my personal life. Because I've always soared professionally. But personally was kind of like, that work-life harmony, that work-life balance. But being able to be intentional and be more focused and be more present personally, it really helped me to, really soar when it came to Johnny Spot. And so that's where I was. But I would say networking, right? So this is my sweet spot. And folks who know me, all my fellow P&Gers and Centrifuge family and friends, they always say I'm a networker. And this is one area that I do thrive in. And so I would say for an entrepreneur, especially a female entrepreneur, this is one of the most important areas that you can focus on. You have to network by any means possible, okay? And I mean, use every network that you have, personal network, friends and family, spiritual network, whether faith-based, whatever that is for you. I mean, I'm talking about I'm on boards with the school. I use my church. I used, Team Mom. I'm like Team Mom on all the different sports teams. I use past team leaders that I worked under, past leaderships, leaders that I supported at P&G and GE. That's why you'd never leave a job on bad terms. You never leave a leader on bad terms, because you never know when you have to call someone and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. When I launched Johnny Spot, one of my senior chief officers from GE flew in to my launch. I mean, come on. So network is everything. Network is everything. And when they will introduce you to their network, you're golden. So your network is your net worth. And I truly believe in that. And I would not be who or where I am today without it.
I love that. All right, we're going to do a quick lightning round on a couple of questions. So Anne, give me two things. One, your favorite network, and you can't say Centrifuge because that is what brings all of us together. We are all huge. Each of us on this panel are huge Centrifuge fans. But give us one, your favorite network, and then 5 years from now, what do you think the landscape is going to look like for female founders?
Okay, my favorite new network that I've come to know is SheEO. And what I love about SheEO is they are so committed to the ask and offer philosophy. They're so generous with that. And I think that's something that all of us can learn when we're networking. How to connect, how can you help, all of those things. And in 5 years, and I think we'll start to see this really soon as well. Hopefully we don't have to say female founder anymore because we're all founders and we're all in the same boat. Yeah. But until then, I think it's important. And the word I would, the way I think about it is it's going to be in abundance. There's going to be just all kinds of great things happening.
Love that. All right, Rachel, how about for you? Favorite network and where will we be in 5 years?
Sure. I have to say Women's Business National Council. I mean, it's been a great opportunity to network. And then I would say in 5 years, I would see us making strides. And I think that what I would really like to see is that some of the bias reduced for women when we step into a room, whether that's for funding, selling products, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Very good. Kirsten.
I think my favorite network is LinkedIn because you can just contact anybody.
Mine too.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I like go on LinkedIn and spend 10 minutes a day just Googling, LinkedIning, searching, like who do you want to talk to? What do you need to learn? What problem are you facing? And find 3 people and just reach out to them. I think that we determine the future of female founders. Like, I think that there are just so many opportunities and it's gonna be hard. It's so hard. You heard Rachel and Tia tell their stories. It's hard. But I think that like persistence and taking a leap to actually start a business if you're a woman and you want to, or if you know a woman who is in it, just help her however you can. Watch her kids, do a paid pilot, whatever it is. I think we determine what happens for female founders.
I think so too. All right, Tia, we're going to give you the last word on this.
All
Female
right.
founders in 5 years.
Okay, I would say my favorite network, it is Centrifuge, but since it can't be Centrifuge, it is the Sister Accord. That is my favorite network. It is founded by the Sonia Jackson Miles, former P&G leader, and I am so honored to be a part of that network. And they are a network that empowers women and girls, and it is founded on love, the principles of love and respect for women and girls in the workplace and in life. And where are we going to be in 5 years? I just feel like, you know, one of my favorite songs is Beyonce, Who Runs the World? Girls. We run the world. And I just believe that we can do anything that we set our mind to. I have 2 daughters, and one thing that I have taught them right now, they both are starting their own businesses. And they told me that they learned that from mommy. Yeah. And it just gives me goosebumps to know that they learned that from me during this time. And so I am just so empowered, and just, you know, it just makes me feel good to know that, you know, in just 1 year, they saw mommy do this and now they're doing it.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. Who runs the world?
Girls.
All right, this has been so much fun. Thank you all for participating. I'm going to turn it back over to Elisa. I think she's going to come back on and close us down. But I want to thank each one of you for telling your stories and for sharing your advice and wisdom to our audience. There's so much to be learned from spending time with other people who are living in the same boat. So thanks all for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys. And thank you so much, Betsy, for moderating. That was just really amazing and inspiring to hear from each of you. And thanks so much to those of you who joined us in the audience. Our next event is entitled How Big is Sustainability in Tech? And it will be on April 22nd, which is Earth Day. And we're hoping to have other programming that day as well. So stay tuned for more details. Also, feel free to reach out to me personally if there's anything we can do to help you in your business. Like I said earlier, we are here to support you. You will receive a Zoom survey as soon as the event closes. Please fill out that because it really helps us to tailor our programming and activities to your needs. Also, we will send a video recording of today's event within a week. And thanks everyone and have a wonderful day. Thank you guys.